Alright guys, the follow-up to the build guide means before you watch this video, you want to watch the build guide itself, the previous video on this channel. Secondly, I want to say I will add timestamps. You can just go wherever you want to go and get the answers you are searching for. And third of all, some comments said something along the lines of, "Oh, you blew up. You have to keep feeding the YouTube algorithm. Why do you not use video? Why do you not do videos? Blah." Listen, I am not going to play the social media game. I couldn't care less. I just do content whenever I feel like it. All right. And that's going to stay like that unless like there is some editor that is doing some daily stuff, which I don't see coming honestly right now. But yeah. So this channel will purely be, I will provide information whenever I feel like making a video, right? And fourth, I want to make a guide about like leveling progression in another video because I think it's going to be like 15 or 20 minutes. What I'm going to do is probably finish 100 on this character. So I'm 99 right now. I didn't play for a week now, but it's fine. I'm going to finish 100 and then I'm going to make a video about that, guys. But it's just too much for one video. All right, let's get started. How do we deal, first question, with bleed and poison on this build? We are immune to both because we have CI, we don't take chaos damage. And the thing they said in the interview about bleeding, not like with the energy shield interaction, that is not planned. Yeah, but they still didn't implement anything. So we are still immune to both. So that's totally fine. The next question many people had, how do I proc the Herald-chain? It doesn't work for me. Guys, Heralds are based on your attack damage. Anything that boosts your attack damage, gem levels is good on Heralds, 286%, yeah. Anything that boosts your attack damage is good, okay? Another thing I want to say real quick, Ambush kind of trash, not worth to 6-link, and I also do not know if Longshot even works on Herald of Thunder. So if you look for a little bit more budget, like a double 5-link Heralds would be you take Longshot and Ambush out here, and you put Innovate into your Herald of Thunder. And these are the current links. If you have these 2 5 links, you're completely vibing, okay? Do not change like a lot more. Other changes I want to say real quick. So basically to proc your Herald chains, deal more damage. That's it. A good anoint for that is Doomsayer, by the way. Like this one right here. Try that. Also, jewels with increased damage with Heralds might help. I feel it out. You will be fine. Another change we have is charged staff with all the support gems. One quick thing I want to say to you guys. Lightning exposure, look at the right of the screen. Supportable skills charged staff has a red X, but it works, okay? There's also like a clip somewhere on my Twitch. It works. We can inflict exposure with charged staff. This helps us whenever an enemy is not frozen, basically. I think beside of that, like, there are no big changes to the gems as far as I remember. Yep. All right, next question was, when do I use the polcirkeln ring and when do I use double heralds? Basically, both are fine. The ingenuity problem is that polcirkeln is kind of bad with ingenuity. So at some point, switching to double herald is probably better if you have that belt. But I'm not using the belt anyways myself anymore because I found a headhunter, and headhunter is like a little bit more fun. The TLDR on headhunter is do not use it unless you know what you're doing, aka boosting rare monsters in your maps by a lot. Elsewise, it's not worth, but it feels kind of fun, honestly, Headhunter on this build. Definitely works. I don't know. On bosses, it's definitely not better than Ingenuity. While mapping, it's at least a little bit more fun, so I took it, okay? Another question that was asked a lot, what about the ghost dance? I do not have the gems anymore. Yeah, same. I used an unset ring, the gem slots. I used an unset ring, but then I found this breach ring, which is pretty insane, and then I just settled with ghost dance. Okay, that's the least important of all your auras. By the way, the spirit on this build is purely body armor plus ascendancy node. Like, so many people asked, why do you have so much? It's just these two. Like, guys, read the ascendancy you're playing. Anyways, next question. What about Heft support? So Heft support is a very interesting thing. This one here. Basically, it's a good support until you have the gloves, because the gloves give you flat lightning damage, which doesn't scale with the maximum physical damage, right? So until you have the gloves, it's a good support gem. When you have the gloves, it's pretty bad, honestly, because it doesn't scale your Hoa damage at all. Next question that was asked a lot is, how do you solve mana? I run out of mana. So, and that includes also how do we do bossing on this build. For that, let's look into some Zesht. What I'm doing here is I swap out Tempest Bells for the Heralds, because Heralds don't do anything on the bosses, obviously. And we swap our passive tree by unspecking these 3 points and these 3 points and putting them into here. So harness the elements, very good, and some cold pen as much as you can. With that, that's basically the bossing setup you have. I have this for mapping right now. I do not use them, and like they feel okay, but yeah, like just stick with a passive tree I linked in the build guide. That's totally okay. So for bossing, that's the changes we are doing. Mana solving, guys, listen. If you are one of the people that said, yo, I copied your build, but I can only attack 20% of the times while I'm doing bosses, you can stand in hideout. So I think this was the gem setup I had. Okay, and you can just hold down Ice Strike. And you see this is pretty bad for bosses. Then what you can do is you can just think about all the mana solving issues or all the mana solve ways I said in the build guide. Like, for example, put in inspiration and then do the same stuff again. And see that, like, with a flask, you're probably fine. Feel it out, okay? If you need more than that, take these two first. If you need even more, take that. If you need more than that, you're doing something weird, okay? But with that, you're vibing, okay? That's how to solve mana. Feel it out. If your mapping feels bad, it's totally okay to use inspiration in your main setup. I'm doing it right now as well because I'm lazy. It's totally fine. Like, feel it out, guys. You will get it, okay? But please, you can check it in hideout in like a few seconds. Before you enter an encounter, a map or a pinnacle, hold down your Ice Strike and think, am I satisfied with that mana cost? Am I going to feel good? And if no, do any of the changes I just said, okay? Next question, how do we generate power charges during boss fights? And with that, I want to go over the Bell one more time. Bell is an entity that is like, I don't know how much HP it has, but it feels like it's 1 HP. So whenever we hit it, with any flat fire, with any flat lightning and cold, we usually freeze, chill, ignite, shock the Bell. Okay? That means our charged staff will always be up because we are generating power charges by freezing an enemy. We are freezing our Bell. It works. It counts. We are vibing with that. Okay? That also comes to the flat fire damage on some gear pieces. So some people were outraged that I do not have flat fire damage. You guys in theory are right. It's a good thing. And I swapped to flat fire damage on one of my rings. See, the thing is though, we are, if at all, fighting map bosses for 60 seconds out of 60 minutes. 1 minute of bossing per hour, where we are having our bell down. And then, in that 1 minute, we are dealing 15% more damage. It's really not that big of a difference, guys. But we still want to have it, okay? Any flat fire damage to also ignite the bell. Good, and an important change to the build guide, okay? Next question was, why do we not use the charge infusion aura? We only have power charges and we are a non-crit build. Next question was, what other jewels beside of the rage jewel do we have? And with that, I also want to answer, I'm just hovering over them. I basically prefer movement speed, any kind of damage, energy shield, and this one, last line, gain 9% of maximum energy shield as additional stun threshold. Very good to feel better. That's how I'm also countering stuns, okay? But basically, that's what I'm aiming for. Keep in mind, I am a guy that basically last time I was logged in still was pushing for level 100 until I didn't play for 8 days now. Yeah. These are the jewels I'm running with. I do not know much about the unique jewels. However, I know the Sanctum jewel exists that gives you 4% of cold as extra, 4% of damage as extra cold and 4% of damage as extra lightning. That sounds insanely good if you can get your hands on that. For everything, for our Herald-chain, like, that's insane. Any source of damage as extra cold and lightning is really good. You guys really want to have that one, okay? And it will help you a lot with your health as well. Next question was, what map mods should I avoid? Very good question. I avoid stun buildup, ailment threshold, penetration, and monster elemental resistance. I want to show you guys real quick why do I avoid stun buildup. This is why. Here I have one jewel. Look at the map mod on the right side. 248% increased stun buildup. And here I also instantly felt it. I thought like, okay, let me dodge and all, but here I couldn't dodge anymore. And yeah, holy shit. If I press escape like a half a second later, I'm dead here basically. So stun build-up is kind of banned. Yeah. The other thing is minus max is actually kind of fine. I will explain in the next video why, but basically with 16k ES, nothing hits us for much. And having minus max res, like even if we take double damage of like 1k, it's 2k. It doesn't really matter, really. Like that mod is fine. Just pen goes probably up to like 40% with like waystone effects. A little bit iffy. And another thing I just want to show real quick with another close call that can happen, like shrines in general, a little bit scary, but I will probably in the next video talk about that a little bit more. All right. Next question is what annoints? That's a good question. The cheapest one is sharpened claw. That's very cheap. Next one that you want to go for is blur. That's very cheap as well. And after that, there are like a lot of options. If you feel like blink is cool, I want more CDR, get authority. If you feel like my heralds should do more, go Doomsayer. If you want to have movement speed and some speed, acceleration is fine. If you want to have movement speed and defenses, spiral into depression is good. If you just want to have tankiness, heavy buffer is the best because the downside doesn't apply to CI. I have pure energy because I didn't have the money to go. This was some disgustingly expensive annoyance, so I didn't have the money for it. Oh yeah, isolation. So anything like these is probably totally good. And one special one I want to talk about, climate change. This is a perfect note for you guys to learn how to feel stuff out, and it's showing like the beautiful side of PoE, okay? When you read this, you need to think about so many things. Like 25% of cold damage is extra fire damage against frozen enemies is pound for pound if you have a condition freeze up a lot of times. The best anoint for damage. Now, the thing is, when does it actually proc? What you want to have is a build that basically one-shots every monster pack in a map. So you one-shot them before you freeze them, so there it's useless. Then you go into map bosses. Those guys you freeze, and this has insane value. Very good. But pinnacles, on the other hand, we do not freeze them that much, so it's a little bit weird again. So climate change shows you guys one of these perfect examples, what I mean by feel it out. Because I cannot give you a general solution to climate change, and I cannot say that's like, yeah, there are probably scenarios. Basically, if you guys play a build that needs 2 attacks to clear packs, then climate change is probably insane because the first attack is maybe like freezing them, and then it's giving you the exact amount of damage to 2-shot packs. Yeah. If you freeze rare monsters real quick, but you lack damage on rare monsters, and you feel like, oh, that's a very big issue for me. I one-shot white packs, but I do not kill rare monsters faster. Yeah, you guys get where I'm going, and feel it out. Yeah, it exists, but it's really dependent on your playstyle. It is really dependent on feel it out. Okay. Next is what about elemental damage on weapons? Basically, people mean something like this. If you imagine the intelligence being flat, increased critical strike chance, this is probably our dream weapon for end game. The best mods you can have is increased fizz damage, flat fizz, and then the one that I have here, increased elemental damage with attacks on a high roll. Like, these prefixes are perfect, probably. Just a little bit worse than the increased elemental damage with attacks is what I have here, the second mod, the hybrid physical damage and accuracy. Okay, but this is like a perfect weapon if the int would be flat crit chance instead. Actually, I mean, like, just for the video real quick, can break this. You know what I mean? Unless there is some ominous rip. All right, guys, it died. GG. Anyways, this is basically the weapon that you want to have, and when you want to chase, it's okay to have that stat. Any kind of other flat elemental damage is obviously works, but it's always worse than fizz, okay? So the increased fizz percent and flat fizz is what you need and want. That's the insanely important stats. And last but not least, for your weapon, keep in mind the following thing. Do not search for PDPS, because PDPS includes attack speed. This build feels way better if you are able to one-shot monster packs. Attack speed is obviously a good stat, but much rather than just searching for PDPS, go to the trade side and just go for a weapon that has high fizz damage. Attack speed is second prio, okay? That's what I would say in general. Next question, Eternal Youth, when to use it and when is it good? Honestly, don't play with it if you don't like it. It's actually feeling. I genuinely, like, I thought I had like 10 days where I was like, should I maybe respec it? It's fine if you do. If you go into Pinnacles, you would take Meditate instead of I Am the Blizzard anyways, and then it's bad as well. Like, I don't know, look at this, like, we can look through the Zesht boss fight real quick. You will see, like, you always have enough time to meditate if you would want to. in this fight. Like, if I needed to meditate, it's fine here. I killed Arbiter. Also, I felt there, it's fine to meditate in there. You have some time. Eternal Youth is in a weird spot. Like, I don't know if it's genuinely needed, but yeah. I feel like in most fights, it's totally fine to just go meditate. But yeah, this is also basically the playstyle you want to do, by the way, on bosses. And yeah. About that. Okay, next question. Why is the maxroll link that I linked in the build so insane? Like, I have a mirror tier gear. About that, I never used mobalytics and maxroll because I think POB is only worth, like the only thing that is worth to invest time into for me, to look into my character, and these websites are just worse than POB. Someone made that link for me. A very nice viewer basically made the work. And he told me, basically, he put in like increased physical damage, flat physical damage, attack, like all the stats on my gear, but by default on the max roll page, they are max rolled. They are highest tier. I don't know if that's like a joke from the website. I didn't look much into it because I would never look for guides there when Path of Building comes later. You know what I mean? But that's a problem for me. I didn't realize that early enough, but I also couldn't be bothered to do like a normal one. Now POB is out, and I plan on like right now doing level 100 and then doing a POB. In that POB, I will also do some leveling progression, all of that stuff. Okay. Next question, what vials from Survey? So Act 3 and 6, you get the Venom reward, where you can get vials like from Survey. One of them, the first one was Mana Region that I took. The second one that I took was Chaos Res. Do not take Chaos Res. Do take attributes. I just didn't think I make it this far to build CI on this character. In hindsight, it sounds a little bit yikes, but it is what it is. So that was just a mistake. Take Mana Region and attributes. In my opinion, the Mana Region feels good. Okay. Next question, why do I not use Flicker? I didn't ever test it, but I do not see anything I could gain from it. I have enough damage. I freeze my whole screen. I have mobility that I can control, and I do not need to solve charges for Flicker Strike, so I do not see a reason, but I didn't test it yet. And next question is, how do I obtain so much energy shield and evasion rating on this build? It's purely gear and tree, nothing else, okay? So if you guys, like, I changed a lot of gear, by the way, to the YouTube guide, but nothing really interesting because it's just to fix resistances for my headhunter that I found. If you guys, like, want to have as much energy shield evasion, it's purely these two things. So if you have less, it's just your gear is worse. If you have less, it's just, or your tree is worse, okay? And then another thing I want to talk about, by the way, because I have like this weapon swap setup. The weapon is whatever, just looks cool, honestly. That's the only reason I'm using it. But the shield is giving me CDR, and I have like this other tree here that goes for some CDR. This is just mobility. Okay, look, top left, blink. You see this cooldown? Yeah? This is the weapon swap I'm having. And now look at this cooldown. You guys get the point, okay? So this is like worth to do a weapon swap. And for that, you guys can look at the tree right now and then maybe take something from there. And last but not least, what about ghostwrithe, the unique body armor on this build? That converts 50% of life to ES. Absolute troll. I don't know why this is even asked. Like, we are an evasion, acrobatics, and ES build. We need a chest that provides us with a lot of flat on these two stats. So I think the only world in which you ever want to use that is like if you find it Act 3 and for the rest of the campaign. That's okay, probably. But like, yeah, no. It's also really, I don't believe in that item for this build at all. Because Ascendancy also, like, nah. All right, guys, that's it for the follow-up on the build. If you have any other questions, feel free to comment them. As I said, I'm going to do another progression tips, leveling tips video at some point later. In a few days, I'm going to probably finish the level 100 if I feel like it. And after that, I'm probably going to do a video that explains all of that. But until then, thanks for watching. And I am positively surprised by how well the build guide was received. And yeah, we'll see. Have a good one. Thanks for watching. Bye.